For a very, very long time, I've always been saying that when you try and justify and pass speech laws, you really don't have a foot to stand on or a leg to stand on, even when those same laws are used on you. I never thought the leopards would eat my face, that type of thing. However, it seems to be starting to happen, and it's one thing that I've tried my best not to do myself because, I would be a bit of a hypocrite if I did, but people on the right are in fact starting to do this, and I know do not normalize this type of behavior as a weapon. But, however, some people have been doing it. Teachers who use the term white privilege should be reported as extremists, says Tory. Tory Jonathan Gullies said teachers who use the phrase white privilege should be reported to prevent, as it was extremist ideology, and prevent are part of the police, and basically it's their job to prevent extremism. However, their primary focus has been on right-wing extremism and a little bit of Islamic extremism. Not so much the left wing, though. That's known because people have actually reported, left-wing extremists to prevent, and prevent don't care. Their focus is on right-wing. But, maybe that will change. Teachers who use the phrase white privilege should be disciplined and reported to prevent as extremists, a Tory MP has claimed. Jonathan Gullies made the hardline claim at the Tory conference, where he also said teachers who show support for Labour in the classroom should be sacked. Now, I don't agree with any of this. The Stoke-on-Trent North MP, a former teacher himself, made the comments at an event hosted by the Conservative Friends of Education. The phrase white privilege is used to describe unseen advantages for people with white skin in a society where most other people are of the same ethnic background as them. It's also inherently a racist phrase. It's basically it's the white person's version of the Jews. Like, that's pretty much what that is. But Mr. Gullies claimed the term white privilege is an extremist term. It should be reported to prevent because it is an extremist ideology. I think it's an extremely stupid ideology. I don't think I would class it as extremist. Prevent is a government programme to tackle extremist ideology that could lead to terrorism. Mr. Gullies continued, it's racist to actually suggest everyone who is white is somehow riddled with privilege. Yes, it is, because you're making judgments on someone based on the colour of their skin. Making a judgment about what their life is like, their experiences, all that type of stuff. Making such a judgment, passing judgment on someone based on the colour of their skin is racist. So, yes, it is a racist phrase. So I hope that it will be reported, I hope that it will be looked into, and any teacher who's perpetuated in the classroom ultimately should face a disciplinary hearing at the very least. Because it's not what children should be listening to, it's not appropriate for the classroom. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that part. Not the disciplinary or the prevent stuff, but I would agree with that. For example, if you're in geography class, white privilege has absolutely nothing to do with geography, or chemistry, or biology, or maths. Nothing to do with it. The classroom is a place to impart knowledge, not to impart political ideology of the teacher standing in front of you. And that I completely agree with. I think that educational facilities should be apolitical. Basically, teach kids, we have the Labour Party, we have the Conservative Party, we have blah, 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 all these parties. These are their beliefs. You go out and make your own mind up. I think that's what it should be. I think, people should be allowed to make up their own minds and not have a teacher, give them shit. And you're seeing so many videos coming out now of, the student lifting their phone up and secretly recording the teacher as she goes on some great big neoliberal rant. And you're seeing a lot of that happening now. The class, I've just read that. Labour MP Bel Ribeiro said, the idea that white privilege exists isn't extremist, it's a widely accepted fact. No, it's not widely accepted at all. It's not a fact either. These comments betray a wider desire in the Tory party to drive a wedge between working class communities, crack down on free speech and education, and impose right-wing values on teachers. Okay. Let's go. Was it they say? Let's unpack this, right? Betray a wider desire in the Tory party to drive a wedge between working class communities. Now, one thing that Labour has done for the last 4 years is called everyone that voted in favour of Brexit racist, bigots, white supremacists, and all those other things, as well as insulted their intelligence, insulted their background, insulted, the fact that they are working class, even though Labour is supposed to be the working class party. This is something that I have seen and witnessed, and if you don't believe me, look at the fucking polls. Look at the polls in the last general election. Labour got Putney. Putney. That's what Labour got. Everywhere else they get fucking decimated, and see the areas they did hold on, they held on to them by like a little tiny margin apart from the proper strongholds, right? And that is because of the absolute bullshit that Labour has been doing. Labour are the working class party, and they lost the working class, right? Because of this pure, birthing people, women. It's not just women that have cervixes, like nonsense like that. Like, do you know that not only women have cervixes? I've been waiting 9 months on my appointment for the NHS. I am literally dying. I do not give a fuck about gender and all this bullshit. Well, I want to live. Fix the NHS, right? That's what happened, right? And Labour lost the working class as a result. Crackdown on free speech and education. Yeah. Really? Really, Labour? Fucking really? Like, that one I don't even need to touch. Crackdown on free speech and education. Right, okay then. By the way, see a bunch of the people that turn up to universities that try and shut down talks? They're all from the Labour Party. They're all from Momentum. They're all from Momentum, who are associated with the Labour Party. They're essentially its militant wing. All of these people are voters and basically members of the Labour Party, and in some of these protests, some of the Labour Party MPs turn up and also protest another person's right to free speech within education. And there's also been pushes for them to say, oh yeah, you shouldn't be like this one. Oh, you shouldn't impose right-wing values on teachers. Oh, but what? Oh yeah, cool, that's fine. Or left-wing values. How about we impose neither values on teachers? How about teachers don't impose any political values on children at all? Because the children are there to learn maths and geography and biology and all these other types of things. They're not there to be indoctrinated into your shite, right? One thing I wouldn't do if I was a teacher, I'm not going to sit there to a bunch of 13-year-olds and discuss Rothbard. So I do. Do you know that Rothbard says I'd be allowed to legally sell you? No, I wouldn't do that. But like, I'm not going to have a talk like that about a 13-year-old. I mean, why does Rothbard keep using the Robinson Crusoe analogy? And I'd be like, we're talking about the capitals of countries, you be fanny, like, shut up. I'm not here. I'm sure I'm going to get some deep political insight from you, Kevin, 12 years old Kevin, that still pishes his pants. Right, shut up, sit down. Wait behind at the end of the class so I can fucking beat you. I'd be a great teacher. Working class children of all races are being held back by Tory cuts and not by the teaching of racism and classism in schools. Such things should not be taught in schools. Children are there to be educated in order for them to find work. I learned about racism and classism in schools. Aye. Is there jobs in that? Aye. Well, actually, technically there is, and they get paid fucking handsomely. That's why they always make the problem out to be a lot worse than it actually is. Because, firefighters don't get a lot of work if there aren't any fires. So in order to justify their paychecks, they might sneak out at night and, light a few fires. Or tell people there are lots of fires when there aren't really. The MP's comments were among a string of attacks on so-called woke politics. That's what it's, yeah, it is woke politics. During the Conservative Party conference, ex-minister Jake Berry attacked civil servants for woking from home, while Boris Johnson used his speech to take aim at know-nothing cancel culture iconoclasm, which, yeah, is fair enough. Pardon. Mr. Gullies spoke on Tuesday at a fringe event in Manchester, a recording of which was handed to the Mirror. He warned there should be consequences for woke left teachers allowing a cancel culture to trickle into secondary schools. He said the other way we can stop the cancel culture is by actually saying to the woke left lecturers and the woke left teachers, who seem to be becoming more and more apparent, ultimately, guess what's going to happen? If you're going to push your ideology in the classroom, there are going to be consequences for you. I don't push conservatism in the classroom. It wasn't an appropriate thing to do, and I agree with that. I do agree that educational establishments should be apolitical. See, raising children to have a particular political belief, that is indoctrination. It is. You're raising them like, if you're raising them to think for themselves, then that's the way you should be doing it. That's great. That's absolutely fine. But basically, raising them to, you will vote Labour or you will vote Tory, or these are the political beliefs that you should have, and if you don't have them, quite frankly, you're just a bad person. You don't want to be a bad person, do you? Saying shit like that to kids. No, completely unethical, and that is indoctrination, right? That is what North Korea and all those other countries do, right? No, and that definitely should not be done here. For some reason, if a Labour Party member wants to stand up in front of the classroom and say how bad and evil the Tories are, then the head teacher has to take some sort of sympathetic viewpoint to that. It's absolutely disgusting. We need to start sacking people who are pushing their political ideology. I do think that there should be some sort of rule in schools where you're not allowed to push political ideology onto kids. Because one of the reasons that I ended up becoming a communist was because of a teacher in school. That was the reason I ended up becoming a communist, because of a teacher. That was why. I had no idea what communism was. I just wanted to ride my bike around and go fishing, because I loved fishing. I love it. This wasn't just a thing I did with my dad. And I used to go fishing all the fucking time, even when I was like 13. But yeah, like, the reason I got involved in communism and I became pretty fucking radicalized into communism was because of a teacher. Because that was an authority figure telling me these things. And I went, oh, if an authority figure's telling me it, then it must be true, right? And it took a long while for me to get out of that, right? That's how powerful indoctrination is. If you want to do that, join a political party, come to Stoke-on-Trent North, pay your £500 deposit, run against me in the next general election, which is a fair point. Mr. Gully's also referred to transgender people as it. In a conversation about people using their preferred pronouns. He said he attended a Q&A, and the first question I caught was, what is your views on pronouns? I thought, what the hell are you doing? I've got no issue calling someone they or them or it or whatever they want to be called. Right. But ultimately, I don't believe that we should have to change the language and tell all the kids somehow you're transphobic if you use he or she, or you should be hounded into silence. And then that is the end of the article. But yeah, as for people being fired for it, no, I believe they should be told no political indoctrination of children. Like, indoctrination itself is not ethical. For example, when I raise my kids, if they ask me about libertarianism and they want to talk about it and everything, then I'll chat to them. But if they ask me about Labour or Conservatives and stuff like that, I will tell them about it and I will give them an honest answer. I will say, this is what they want, here's the positives, here's the negatives, go out and make up your own mind, because I want my children to fucking think. That's what I want. I want my children to actually think, because that is a sign of great intelligence, for them to be able to make up their own fucking minds. Within limits. You know, if my daughter comes up to me at 8 years old and goes, I want a tattoo. No. If she comes up to me at 22 years old and says, I want a tattoo. No. It's like one of the things that, by the way, see, when it comes to piercings, tattoos, drinking drugs and everything, like, I'm going to be such a hypocrite with my kid. You did all of this when you were younger. Yeah, I did. You can't. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Yeah, I'm hypocritical. Yeah, my house, my rules. Fucking suck it, bitch.